We have a YouTube show. We teach painting. Sometimes we get on live. Maybe.
Try.
If you've never been here before, watch another video.
We're here to teach art.
Well, I was going to teach you guys how to paint some rocks today. It's been a weird day. So, if you don't know it at home, this is the Big Art Quest, and we cover things that you might learn in a painting class, but it is completely unlike any class. Clearly.
Yes.
On the mic is my husband, John, who was showing me my face before my face was ready to be shown. He follows me around with different cameras, controls all this insanity that is our studio, and also reads comments, which I'm sure there's a lot of comments to read right now. We've had a time getting on. If you don't know it, if you're a YouTuber, this is sort of important to you. If you're just somebody who's watching YouTube, it'll probably affect some of your creators. There's been a lot of changes to YouTube lately. More are coming.
Yes.
And even when those changes are unrelated, like right now they have a content ID thing going on about, I don't know, like if content is appropriate or not, which clearly is not going to affect art in any way because we're not that polarizing. But whenever they upgrade the system or change anything, it impacts us.
Yep.
And so sometimes it's more entertaining to go live.
So yeah, this morning we hit all of our buttons and everything turned red and it said, yeah, we're broadcasting, and Cinema and I are chatting away here. And I look over there and there's no broadcast going.
I need more coffee for this day. So as some of you know, I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'm not sick. I am not dying. This is, it's just the general kids have gone back to school and brought home the crud.
Yeah, we're just, But, we have a huge audience here. There's got over 215 people here. They're all here. We're ready to rock.
I'm going to show you. I'm really good at rocks.
You're
so I'm going to
rocking.
show you how I do that. I think rocks are challenging for people sometimes. If you've ever felt like, I don't understand rocks, you are so not alone.
Bang.
So many new painters just are like, what is up with this rock thing?
Mm-hmm.
I have good news for you. Like all things in acrylic art, ogres and acrylic art are like, they need layers. There's about layers, and rocks are really about layers. So I'm going to show you some different ways to construct some different examples of rocks, and hopefully in showing you that process,
Yeah.
it's going to like click for you, and you're going to be like, I can paint all the rocks now.
So, everyone's asking where you got your mug at. You want to show them that mug? Where did that come from?
My Sherpa store, which I don't know the address to.
Shop.theartsherpa.com. We need to get a lower thirds for that. We'll put a link in the description below.
Wait, it's got trees on this side.
But that's from the
That's from the Little Red Riding Hood tutorial.
uh-huh.
And so now it's my mug.
So
Which some other people's mugs too, because some people bought it.
there's lots of people who bought the mugs.
So often I get a mug, and then you guys get a mug too, because I wanted a mug.
So I'll say thank you to all you guys who are out here
Mm-hmm.
hanging out with us today. Don't forget to hit that like button there. That really helps YouTube know that you guys like to see what you saw here. We'll keep making more of that. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here, and share it with your friends.
Yeah?
We want more people here in the room hanging out with us.
You do?
It's a party.
It's a party, not a class?
It's a party. I don't know. It could be class too. What are you doing?
No, we don't have classes. We have quests.
Quests is true.
We don't do anything as mundane as classes. Rocks, my friends, are many colors.
We see the colors you're putting out. Some blue.
So,
and some
yeah, we're going to do some
brown.
basic rock construction.
Can you tell me what those colors are?
We have, as soon as I get the last one out,
Okay, get the last one out.
I'm going to tell you.
I'm impatient. I want to know what colors those
It's
are.
okay. Everybody else is too. Jake's hat is very hot today.
That's what I was looking at your hat. It's kind of cute.
You know what it is I'm slightly under the weather, so I'm sort of appreciating the coziness of it. So the first thing we're going to do is our basic rock, right?
So is there a non-basic rock?
Oh, yeah. There's so many rocks. In fact, I'm going to get out a number 8 bright to start this out. I've included in the eye card, which is that floating eye up in the corner.
Uh-huh.
If you've never seen it, just look up there in the corner.
That's just
What
for
was
you.
that?
That's just your monitor. You're going to need reference photos.
Oh, it's floating up there in the corner is an iCard. If you click it, it will pop out some other videos. It'll include the Big Art Quest playlist if you'd like to get all this free art education. Also, it's going to pull up Stephanie Bergeron's Deliberately Creative. She does these things called doodle gems, and I think that's a very nice drilled down. Just give me the big boulders first.
Yeah.
Example of some fancy fantastical rocks. So if you thought this was fun and you want to go on an incredible art adventure based on rocks, then I have hooked you up in a fantastic way. I'll come here so John can show you with the camera.
Okay, get over there.
You guys ask me about this all the time. What the heck am I doing in the water? What I'm doing is sometimes my brushes have conditioner in them. Sometimes they have some soap left over in them. So I like to, before I start, get them wet and then get the excess water off. So they're lightly moist, but they're not wet. And I think that that's sometimes confusing. See how it's not really wet? It just, whatever I had in there conditioning it is now out.
Right.
Right. It's what you do. So I'm going to mix the basic rock gray, which is ultramarine. So I've got Dog's Eating Purple, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, cad red medium. You could probably get away with alizarin crimson or something here in this mixture as well, and titanium white.
And what brush are you using?
I'm using a number 8.
A number 8.
And when you mix these two together, it starts to go a little gray on you. If you add a little of the burnt sienna to it, you can add a little of the Dog's Eating Purple. You start to get a very deep color. Rocks are colorful, guys.
Yeah, lots of people are
I'm
wanting
going to come up here and I'm going to do this first rock in the upper right.
There's lots of questions about painting on rocks as well as painting rocks.
Yeah, I know some of you got here and you're like, wait, we're not painting on a rock? No, we're going to paint actual rock.
Painting on rocks will be
Is
another question.
later, but is coming. Painting on rocks is coming. In fact, I'm going to look for some rocks today to paint. Maybe some wine bottles or glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Because we got to get ready for the, a most expensive time of the year where retailers put social pressure on us to help them out. All right. So I'm going to save us all from Black Friday by making sure you guys have a lot of gifts that you can make at home in the safety of your home. Because I think shopping has gotten a little bit... So see how I've made this sort of purpley gray color?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Now, if I'm doing a rock, what I want to do is then change up the tones and values of my color. So I'm going to add a little more blue, some white, and a little more red. This gets a little gray. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to imagine that there's sunlight maybe coming from here. And I'm going to start putting in this next little layer of lighter color. And I'm going to be a little rough. Pull up some more white there so it's showing up a little more, right?
Mm.
And I'm going to really, really light this side of my rock. And maybe I'm going to leave some shadow right here and light up some of this rock. Now it's got some shape to it. Right? And I'm just starting to give some color to my rock. When you're really doing rocks, things you want to do, if you're doing two rocks next to each other, don't clone. Don't do another rock that's this shape. Don't do that. Make it significantly different than its friend.
Now there's I'm going to pull some real weird references, but
Those are all you can use because those are all from graphic stock. So you can even show those.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I was saying that I remember when I was designing like the fish tank, they talked about like rock placement, and there was a whole lot of like in Japanese culture, there's a whole lot of study about rock placement in fish tanks, and
there's just a lot of study of rock placement in gardens and fish tanks. But in painting, what you want is you want your rocks to be of different sizes and very different shapes.
Yeah, that's what it was saying. I thought that was really cool.
This one's going to be slightly more red, and maybe it'll layer in front of its friends here and be smaller.
Yeah, so is odd numbers better?
Well, yes. Odd numbers are always helpful, but there are times when you don't want it to be odd. I'm going to dry these real quick.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. So while she's doing that, I'll say, hi, guys. It's so nice to see everybody out there. Oh, she's back to her.
I need to dry my rocks.
Okay.
Right? And I'm just using these colors right here and showing you how much variance I can get in my rocks. With just these colors. I'm not using any actual black or gray, which is what most people really, really want to do when they're first doing rocks, is get into their blacks and grays. And there are rocks that are in those ranges, but really most rocks are quite colorful. So I've just done cad red and ultramarine there, more to the blue, and I'm pulling out some white. And interestingly enough, this is quite gray. And I'm going to come here on a very dry brush And just continue enforcing that highlight and then dry brushing over everything. Right? And I might come here and add some of this color. I like to add colors that I mix across several rocks.
Yeah? Why is that?
Because it creates some unity in the piece.
What do you mean by unity?
Well, you know, sometimes it's nice if I'm trying to say these all come from the same quarry. If I use similar colors, even in places like, even if this rock's going to be mostly red and brown, having a little bit of this color will imply it came from the same vein of stone.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because that's what would happen in nature. Sort of trying to pay attention to some of my light source coming from here. Right? I might come back with a little more blue into this mix. And then on this far side, just be adding an implied shadow. I'm keeping my shapes irregular.
Does the brush directionality matter here?
Actually, trying not to be too neat and tidy in all one direction can help. And in this case, I like to call these decorative rocks, and I'm saying they're decorative rocks because I'm not doing something. I'm not using a reference photo.
Gotcha.
I'm formulaically painting rocks, and we're going to talk about the difference of those two things.
Okay.
I'm going to add a little kind of shadow happening here, and maybe put a shadow. See, I'm adding a shadow behind this rock because this rock would cast a little shadow on these two. And then what would they all have underneath them?
Dirt?
Shadow.
Oh, well, yeah, that too.
So what most of you guys do is you float your rocks.
Oh, I guess you could have water under them too.
I'm purple and ultramarine and a little burnt sienna. Makes quite a dark color. It's not quite a chromatic black, but it's very, very dark, isn't it? See, as soon as I put this shadow under my rocks, now they're laying on the ground.
So
now they're laying on the ground, aren't they? I might even add some of this nice dark shadow up here to say this is even more shaded. Maybe a little bit here. I'm looking what I do, and this is something you would see Bob do. This is something that you'll see decorative painters do, is the paint sometimes starts to create shadows and imply shapes.
Yeah.
And I look for that, and maybe sometimes I lean into that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And exploit it further. I'm looking for things to exploit on my canvas. Apply that shadow a little bit stronger. It's all purple, but these still start to feel like rocks, don't they?
Yeah.
Haven't rinsed my brush. I'm going to pull out some brown.
So you'd say that directionality really isn't important? It's
No, not. In fact, to avoid too much of it, it can be helpful.
Avoid uniformity?
Yeah.
Now, what if you find...
So this one here, and then I'll come back into my gray and add some white and make sure that I have keep my light source on the top of this. It's dry brushing, so lots of the canvas underneath is showing through.
Now, on that front rock there on the left,
yes.
Let's say you just blew it and you hated that rock.
Paint it out dark again and start over.
Oh, yeah? You just paint over, just paint it dark?
Yeah. So I grew up in, I don't know if I'm there.
Yep.
Okay. I grew up in a studio where a lot of rocks were painted. And then when I worked in my mom's studio as a studio assistant, you know, the fun jobs of putting in the stone walls were also mine. So what I can tell you is you can have a rock go really, really wrong on you, and then you just go back to dark, go back to your darkest tone, and then come back and see if you can find it. If you're really struggling to find your decorative rock, pull a reference photo and let the reference photo solve the complicated lighting problems for you. Lighting is the calculus of art.
Oh, that's
you know, people can be like, your sun's coming from here. And John knows this from being in the video game industry. It's a whole separate set of engineers that light a game.
Yeah, it's a whole...
It's complicated business to light fantasy well, to light things correctly. You have to use a lot of reference photos to extrapolate what you think might be happening. Because light reflects. There's double shadows. You can have a spot of light in the middle of a shadow. The way light dapples. Like if I was to sit there and say there were trees above these rocks, right? And maybe they're dappling some sunlight. Let's see if I can do that. I'll put out some cad yellow onto the rock. See, that gets much more complicated. Oh, but first, if I'm going to dapple some sunlight, I'm going to do something real fun first.
Now, is there a rule or formula for choosing shadow color?
No, there's a value. You want your value to be deep enough to imply that it's a shadow. That's why you definitely want to do 50 Shades of Grey quest and look at those 10 shades of gray, because you need at least 4 steps to really, really start to talk about your value. That is not a rule. That is a guide. Because I'll tell you what, I've seen artists break it with 2.
Yeah.
Right? But when you're starting out, see, there's a set of rules I get to follow because I learned a whole bunch of rules, and now I get to break a whole bunch of rules. And there are no real rules in art. But as a student, when you're starting out, there are steps you cannot skip. You have to learn some fundamental things. And it takes so many paintings constructed to start going, oh, I kind of, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to just like be doing this for a couple seconds and be like, oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. It actually takes a minute. But the good news is if you put in the time, you're going to get it.
Yeah, can we give a real quick shout out to our big community here?
Yeah.
We got over 290 people. Our little counter just keeps going click, 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 click right up there. So thank you guys all for coming and joining us. Wanted to give a big hug. Now, Cinnamon, they want to see your apron before you go on there. You got to show off the apron.
I keep loading my brush, but okay.
I know. They want to see the apron. They think
This
you
is
look
Jake.
super cute.
Adventure time, come get your friends, come live
I'm gonna come zoom out on-
distant lands. I'm hoping Content ID doesn't find me because they're being all weird about it now. So I got a hat. I got this. This is Jake from Adventure Time. If you have kids, I have a toothbrush.
There's your hat.
It's a sacrificial toothbrush. I'm gonna see how it works out.
All
I'm
right.
loading it with a soft paint, a soft body paint. You could also just thin some acrylic paint, and I'm going to add some Stone Fleck. I'll add it to this here so they can really see how much of an incredible difference Stone Fleck makes.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm right on you watching.
All right. How does Stone Fleck affect your rocks? Well, it really, really helps, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm going to have to go back and paint my shadow back in, but that Stone Fleck can make a huge difference to how my rocks read in relationship to each other. So maybe I come back and reinforce my shadow right here, taking those little drops out, and I still want my shadow behind here, so this rock feels different than his friends. But once I have that, then I can come in and maybe dapple a little sunlight. Just a little bit. So say there's a little tree above it, it can have some dappled sunlight,
Oh, wow. That's cool.
right, on it. You know, you can say it's here on the ground too. These are little things. You can be imagining the trees above or just letting a little light down on these rocks. Kissing them. This is a real dry paint. A lot of it's showing underneath. And you're just imagining breaks in the trees. Look how much more those rocks are just alive.
Mm-hmm.
Something gets away from you, work it out. You can take that down. Like I can knock that back and then suddenly it's not such a big deal. Sun is cast on this rock. Right? What can I add to it from here to make it even more rocktacular? It helps to say the words rocktacular. I'm going to make my dark shadow color, right? Which is my Doxanine purple and my ultramarine. Maybe even a little cad red. I really haven't pulled that many colors into this project.
Yeah.
And I can come here and make, what? Little cracks in my rocks.
Now, can you use
Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm cracking in my rocks. What do I know about rocks?
gonna
They
come
have
zoom in on that.
cracks. They have fissures. These are all things that I can do when I'm talking about rocks.
Now, Alan was asking about using stucco for forming shapes and shadows.
Well, Alan, if you're really good at this, go ahead and use stucco.
Yeah.
If you're really good at painting a realistic rock, if you're really good at painting all of the different methods of painting rocks, adding stucco to that will take it to the next level.
Yes.
If you don't have your rock skills down and you throw stucco on it, then you just have no rock skills on stucco. Now, I happen to know Alan has rock skills, so
He rocks.
he has rock skills and can paint rocks. So stucco is really great. And in a later quest, we're going to talk about stucco and the things you can do in stucco, because you can create some great stone walls. You can create some great aged walls in stucco and things.
Mm-hmm.
But again, those basic painting processes still have to exist, right?
Yeah.
So for Alan, when he's sitting there, he's like, well, I've kind of got all my little rocks down, and I painted a bunch of rocks, right? Stephanie, too. She's painted a bunch of rocks. But if you hadn't really painted a bunch of rocks,
Mm-hmm.
it could be a real problem.
Now, somebody was asking, what is stucco?
Stucco is a medium that you can purchase at a fine art store or online. It creates this sort of absorbent sand texture to the canvas. It's very heavy bodied. You can build it up. Takes about a day to dry. Right? So I'm just adding some fissures to my rocks. See, that just creates some... So there's some just basic stones.
Yeah.
So do we have... Oh, I got to show you guys some basic palette knife.
Oh, palette knife rocks.
Similar thing. Diamond knife. I'm going to pull out my purple and my ultramarine. I'm pressing it down. I'll grab some burnt sienna to this mix. And come along here and maybe paint a stone shape. Now I'm always loading to the direction of my stroke,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the first one I'm going to put in kind of solid. All right, got a nice little shape here. Gonna make sure I got a little shadow going here, so I'm pulling in a little more blue. Make sure I got a little shadow to my rock. See my shadow?
Yeah.
Little shadow. I'm going to have to hair dry, which is always John's favorite thing. I'm pressing in with my knife so the shadow is nice and tucked. I can even move this to the part here a little bit over so it has a rock shape I enjoy. Now I'm going to dry this, clean my knife off by pressing down. See how it's all cleaned out?
Yeah.
Dry it.
So while she's drying that, I get to say, hi, guys. It is so good to see you. We got like 290 people here, over 195 likes. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us today. I see Alan's back from vacation.
Hi,
I see
Alan.
Lynn and all of our Gail and all of our crews here hanging out. And I just wanted to say thank you. And all of our light keepers who are here and our moderators, really appreciate it. It's good to see you guys. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Post up the pictures. I want to see your rocks rocking on the Facebook page and on Pinterest and on Twitter, and show them to us. I want to see your rocks.
So I've added a little red to this overall mix.
And
I've
the
done
Sherpa
the
wants to
purple,
paint.
the blue, and the red. I'm going to pull out some white. I'm going to come along the top surface of where I've said my little light source is going to come from. And with incredibly light pressure,
Light.
just skip this knife over the rough surface it already laid in.
The light rock pressure.
Yeah, look at that.
I think that's pretty awesome.
Right?
I like the idea of light rock pressure.
And come pull a little more white, add a little more blue to that. I just want different. Oh, all right, that does happen, but I'm going to go with it.
All right.
I'm going to just tap my palette knife on my rock, leaving little bits of this color. See, not that hard to get the palette knife rock. And again, these are decorative. I'm not painting what I'm actually looking at. And there's a huge difference between decorative painting, right, which is technique based. One is not better than the other, right?
Right.
I know some incredibly skilled decorative painters. And there's some crazy psychotic mental break sometimes in the art world where we take one type of art over another type of art and say, well, it's not fine art, it's illustration. What does that even mean?
Oh, I have been told.
I mean, I know what it means. I went to art school. I've had this debate quite heatedly with not generally professors, but other art students. I mean, the thing is that there's a journey. There's a set of skills somebody develops. They utilize a set of skills, and they tell different types of stories
Uh-huh.
with those skills. You can't necessarily say You couldn't say Norman Rockwell is not as good as Hopper.
Mm-hmm.
That would, first of all, Norman and Hopper will come up from the dead and smack you in the face for being crazy.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, no, I totally respect that dude. He's got a lot of skills, right? But there's that thing. So in no way, that's if we could leave anything along the way as just discarded along our fine art quest, is the idea that one type of painting has significantly more value than another type. Because that's just not, that doesn't functionally make any sense in the real world for how people engage with their art.
Now,
But these are decorative. In other words, I'm not looking at a reference. I'm not trying to recreate what I see. I'm on a technique level creating some rocks.
right.
Right? But if I were looking at rocks, I might do that differently because I'd be looking at the shape of what I'm painting, and then I would look at the patterns that I'm actually seeing, and then I would look at recreating that.
So we have to do a little celebration because we hit Sherpa.
We did
We
on
are
sick day.
Sherpa. On a sick day, we have to make the Sherpa dance. And if you're at home today, you should get up and dance too, because even though it's a little slow day, getting up and dancing lets your body know that you're alive, and you got to celebrate life and celebrate being here and wiggle your toes and wiggle your nose, right? Sherpa's needing the motivation today too. She's feeling a little.
Yeah, I think that's my lightheaded whole dance, and I'm sorry you guys deserve better. I owe you one.
We're okay. It's a little dance.
I was like, I will teach these rocks no matter what. So let's recap kind of what we talked about.
Okay.
We're starting with a dark color. We're wanting to make sure that we put shadows under our rocks so they exist on the ground. That's the number one thing all of you guys could do to improve your paintings is remember to add shadows under objects.
Mm-hmm.
Because it helps ground them. It weights them to the pretend plane.
Mm-hmm.
Layers.
Layers.
We need layers. Lots of colors. Rocks are colorful. Find a light source and go with it. That splatter, that does a lot to create a feeling of rock. I use that a lot. That's like a go-to thing for me. That's a go-to thing for a lot of artists that I know because it creates such a fabulous rock texture. It's so terrific. Painting realistically is different than painting decoratively.
Now,
But one is not better than the other.
When doing this.
Just wanted to recap.
Yeah, no, that's good. So Harold was asking, is there a benefit to using soft body paint as opposed to firmer body paint?
So the difference if I'm using soft body paint to a heavy bodied paint is the soft body paint is self-leveling. So like on something like this where I'm really dependent on texture to get my effect across, and even sometimes in stuff like this where I really want to be able to dry brush, soft body paint can fight me on that a little bit.
Yeah.
However, on like realistic, like wet rocks, soft body paint be your friend. So every paint has like its properties, and you just kind of learn to get to know your paint and what its properties are and what brushes it likes and what canvases it likes and what works for you and what doesn't. And there are magic pills in art, but some of it is just you got to play with your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be okay for, like, sometimes your rock to be like, you get as much value out of a jacked up rock as a really great rock. They're equally valuable to you on your art journey. The one may not be as emotionally satisfying.
Right.
Right? The one you can post for everyone's like, that's the most awesome rock ever.
Now,
So good. I'm so sick.
Now Lori wants
John
to
knows
know.
I get a little weird.
No, you're okay to be weird. We're all weird. here.
Literally.
But Lori has a weird question.
I love a good question.
Do you find that the palette knife makes it easier to make rocks?
Palette knife makes nothing easier.
It's just different?
It's different, and it's a challenging tool.
Okay.
Right? Palette knife has its own challenges because you're painting with a stick, an organized sticky knifey thing.
Yeah.
So, in that, it's good for you as an artist to recognize that, in palette knife work, you're learning to let go and realize when things have happened and not overwork. You're learning to work your surfaces and your tool, all of that being fabulous. And palette knife is about value. You got to understand your values to succeed at palette knife.
Yeah.
There's like this lady that does these roses, right? And it's like crazy. She does this like hot mess. She's like, this is a teapot and here's the two handles, which I've heard before in roses. But I'm looking at them like, I don't see the teapot. I don't see the handles. Where's the saucer? And then she hits two values and boom, it's a rose.
Oh, yeah.
That's not easy. It's like that guy that paints the cat in watercolor in one stroke. He goes, "Look, cat." That is the hardest thing in the world. That guy did more than 10,000 hours of painting that little cat to get that. The crazy amount of knowledge. I think you guys have a meme you like to pass around when somebody's like, "It only took you 15 minutes. Why am I paying you this much money?" Yeah, because it took me 10 years to do.
Right.
That's why. Art takes time to learn. And that's okay because all the learning is fun. Let's be honest, the whole learning is fun. And our real goal is not to all be in the Met. Some of us might be. Somebody watching today could end up in the Met.
That's true. Now,
But that's not the goal of art. That's just a thing that happens while you're painting.
Okay, so
Okay.
so there's
So somebody later is going to be like, nobody will ever end up in the Met from YouTube. Yeah. Somebody who learned to paint on YouTube will end up in museums. It will happen. Mark my words.
so many good questions that are coming in here. So Addie was asking, how can I paint water on top of my rocks, and would I use glaze?
No. Interestingly not. John, may I have those wet river
Sure,
stones?
I will get you some reference pictures up here.
Yeah, now we're going to use references. And we're going to... No, that's a stone wall, sweetie. Those are dry. There we are. Can you show them the reference?
I can.
They're,
Hold on.
wait, no, I might have grabbed that one off the internet. 'cause
Yeah,
I didn't have
so
it
we'll
graphic
just...
stock.
with
Okay,
rocks.
so I'm going to show... You can't see what I'm looking at, but I'm going to show you how to paint a wet stone.
She'll do it by painting them for you.
I got to put out some ochre. It looks like I got to put out some ochre. I got some red here. Some brown. I think I have enough colors to put it out. Pull it out. Okay.
And maybe can you cover some fog techniques when you're done?
Fog.
So they were saying, how would you add fog over rocks?
Zinc.
Zinc.
Zinc. Fog is so easy, guys. Fog is when I'll fog up a rock. John will go get me some of my zinc white, and I'll just show you guys. Or your glaze and white. That's just really about, glazing. So I'm going to pull out a little of my burnt sienna in my CAD because my rock is very, very red. Right? Its base is actually pretty red. And its base predominant color is sort of this crazy red. And I'm going to mimic its shape. Now we're going to be here for a second because when you're painting a wet rock, and I've actually thought about painting some wet rocks with you guys or painting some wet dewdroppy leaves or just any of that stuff because I think that it's mentally taxing sometimes to do those processes. Now again, if you think this is fun, what you see me doing here, you're going to love hanging out with Stephanie, who does this all in colored pencil.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
saying. So this is the base level. Rocks come in colors. Rocks can be like a full rainbow of colors, even just regular river stones. If you want to just talk about just fun to paint, that's really fun to paint. It's really, really fun to paint.
Yeah.
So now I have done the outline of my basic shape. And we would normally just show this to you, but again, there's new weird content ID on YouTube about images and all kinds of things. We're just trying not to get any trouble anywhere.
Being careful.
We're being careful. I'm going to get a little of that shadow color I made earlier and just tint my red that I've got going here. And I'm going to start putting in the shadow that I have on my rock. And the first shadow is here because the rock is curved. It's not flat. So I have to start putting in. I might actually need my glazing liquid so I can blend. Lots of blending when you're painting them wet. They're super fun to do. Don't ever sometimes you guys might feel like, oh, that's really complicated and I don't know if I can do that. Boy, take those challenges on. Right? Yeah. I mean, you don't have to post them to social media to find out what Uncle Earl feels about it.
Well, Callie says you rock.
I rock. You rock too, Callie. So I'm coming around where I'm seeing this shadow around the rock, and I'm just paying attention to what I'm looking at. And that's super fun for me.
Is it super fun for you?
It is super fun for me. And we'll just kind of work this out on here. Just kind of talk about that. And now I see a deeper shadow. I'm trying to blend it. Can you grab my glazing liquid from over there? It's up. Okay, I'll get it.
Well, let's talk about so while she's wandering away, and I don't know where she's gone.
Cut to the glazing liquid I was pointing at.
The
This just helps me blend, and on these I like to blend. I like the blendies.
They were asking about, like, can you explain what zinc white is, aka mixing white, and what it's for when you get to it?
So
Okay.
in the whites there are, and I guess we could do a whole quest for it, but I'm just going to tell you right now because it's not really particularly. It's not like blacks, which was super complicated. There's zinc white, which is white made with zinc, and it is a transparent white. It's a little controversial because it is responsible for the crazing in oil paintings, and there's some theory that it may craze acrylic paintings, though I think they probably address that issue, but we'll see. Time will tell. Then there's mixing white, which is titanium white and is supposed to be titanium white and zinc white, but that's really company to company. You really got to look on those tubes. Then there's unbleached titanium, which is raw sienna and titanium white. Then there's titanium buff, which is real unbleached titanium, which has a different chemical composition. And then there's titanium white. And then there's like two other whites that just have a warm and cool tone. But I can't remember their names off the top of my head. And there's some thoughts on white that I have. If you wanted some. So I'm just kind of really paying attention to the shadows here. Making sure that as I'm going, you can already see it starting to take shape. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
It's so cool. You know, maybe we'll make sure that right here there's a shadow where this rock sits. Because what happens when I give a shadow?
It anchors it to the ground?
It anchors it. That's right.
Okay. I'm guessing. I'm
Guessing. You listen to me. He listens to me go on and on all the time.
It's the truest thing is I listen to you, but I don't pay attention because I'm actually reading chat.
No, I mean like in the studio when I'm just babbling. Because I don't just talk here,
Yeah.
right? People who comment and tell me to shut up, they don't know.
They don't know.
That's not
you just
even
talk in the
that's not
studio,
even
too.
an option this week, guys. Now, this particular rock I'm looking at has a fabulous splatter to it.
It does? I don't see. Now, does the splatter have to be white?
No, I'm about to do a dark splatter.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
I'm going to get this and hopefully, with enough moisture, be able to, hopefully not too much moisture. This is always fun, but I'm going to, there we go. Splatter up my rock. Mostly, apparently, the rest of my canvas is being splattered. But I really, really need that, which is nice. Okay.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it kind of is. And then I'm going to do a secondary splatter. If I can rinse this out enough. Might need new water. A secondary splatter is super fun. But again, a little bit easier when it's fluid, soft body paint, but you can always, I'm just thinning acrylic here. I've just gotten yellow ochre for the second run of splatter. And I would have to paint all this white again if I was like trying to do a realistic piece.
What do you
I'm going
mean?
to hit this with the hairdryer real quick.
Okay. So I'm going to say, hey guys, thank you for coming and hanging out with us today. I really hope to see all your rocks up on our page here soon. So go out and share that up. If you haven't already joined us, you should jump out on Facebook, join our thing. Go out to our website, theartsherpa.com, sign up there, and check out shop.theartsherpa.com, where you can find all of the crazy stuff like that mug that you see Cinnamon sipping on over there.
What? What are we doing?
I was just telling them that's where they can get that mug, is the shop.theartsherpa.com.
Oh, sure. That's fun. Really fun. You can totally do that. I give you permission.
There, that's what we put in there
I just got
for.
paint all over my hand. Well, I'm going to take my dark color, and I'm going to paint the crack that I'm seeing go across my rock. And it sort of just wanders this way. That's going to be important. And you're like, why do I got to do all this to paint it wet? Why can't I just paint a drop on it? You'll see when I finish it.
Oh, all right.
This is, if you guys watch Lockery, this is this space. She talks about this a lot, about the time committed to a piece. And sometimes you guys will go, oh, you're a hyper-realist. And she's like, no, I'm not. Those guys spend a lot more time on their stuff than I do. When you start to paint realism, which is what I'm now sneaking you into right now, without your permission, is that it's about paying attention to small details. And allowing what you're seeing to determine, I'm adding some of these little divots here where they have them. The more time you put into an object, the more realistic it's going to be. Now, I'm going to take my glazing medium, because I don't have zinc out. And if you just have regular titanium white, that's going to make it easier for you.
No.
Is the glazing medium. Really probably should have clean water.
There's
I'm working it out.
A couple people were asking, are you using an 80s hair crimper to get your tubes to look like that? How do you do it?
I heard we had an 80s hairband thing going. We have a special crimper we got to do a video about. It's one of these. This is the one that works, and I get it on Amazon. It's the Tube Ringer
We'll put
Industrial.
We'll put a little link in the description below.
And it helps get my...
So you can find it. It's a cool little tool.
I'm going to make sure I do this in very, very thin glazes, because building up this reflection is a super big deal on how wet this rock is going to look. So my first glaze, man, you may not even be able to see it on camera.
What's that? The glaze? It's real light, yeah.
Because it's so light. First glaze may not even show all that well on camera. But these subtle layers are what's going to make it be like, wow. Wow. I'm letting that glaze have a minute to dry so I can hit the next layer. And while I'm doing that, letting it hit its next layer, I'm going to get some of my titanium white that I have out. That's water. I don't want any water.
So what are you using to glaze there?
I am using acrylic glazing liquid.
There you go.
I like this glazing liquid. So there's two things I like. I like Grumbacher retarder. I think that stuff is the bomb. But you can't glaze with it. You can slow down the drying time of your paint and give yourself a bit more time to go and really blend. Regular glazing liquid by Liquitex dries in about 2 seconds. Fantastic product if you need things to dry very quickly in glazes. Terrible product if you want to open your paint. Acrylic glazing, liquid gloss, semi-gloss, or matte, it comes in all three, I think, also slows down the drying time of your paint, and you can glaze with it. I know, it's like does all the things. It's so exciting. So I'm pulling out my paint, and I have to put this highlight along my crack. That, I'm sure, made some of you laugh. Because I met y'all. And I know y'all are funny. I'm going to add these little details right here of this highlight. This highlight here is going to help this rock feel real. Important highlight.
Important.
For sure. Couple of these coming down this way. All right, there. Now I got to glaze again.
More glazing?
More glazing. I'm telling you, it's a whole thing. It's glazing. Glazing. It's very important. But I'm going to have a stronger glaze right here. And if I need to switch to a smaller brush to get control of what the heck I'm doing, I will.
What are you using right now?
I am using a number 4 bright.
Okay.
Because I just tend to grab brights. I'm used to them, and they give me control.
Addie says you're cracking her up.
Am I cracking her up? I'm so glad I'm cracking somebody up. I worry when I come out here when I'm a little bit under the weather. Because there's no telling what I might say or do. So I'm just still glazing this out. See how the blend of this is very important. If you're having trouble with your blend, pick up just the glazing liquid and soften the edges. And then keep wiping your brush off like I'm doing.
Wow.
And then you'll be able to work that pigment down so that you can have that highlight. See how that's getting wetter and wetter and wetter?
Mm-hmm.
It's got this nice little thing here. And now we got to get that wet highlight, that nice highlight in. I'm pulling I've got my number 2 Simply Simmons shader. Right? This one you can actually get at Michael's. the number 2 Simply Simmons short-handled shader. And I'm going to highlight the part of the reflection. And this is where, if I nail this, it will look wet. If I don't nail this, it will not look that wet. Little pressure.
Little pressure.
Little pressure. I've also got to clean up the splatter, which is messing with my picture plane.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's an important thing. Look at this.
Well, I'm going to say everyone out here is real excited because we're real close to double Sherpa out
Are
here.
we close to double Sherpa? Does that mean John has to dance at any point? Because that would be awesome. I'm going to get this white again so you guys can see the rock.
Cindy says that she hits the like button before she even gets in the room.
She hits the like button before she gets in the room. Dude, but Cindy, some days I suck.
No, you don't. So Alan was asking...
But you know, I am painting with a little bit of a fever here, so we got to hang in with me.
So Alan was asking, would gloss glaze make it look more wet? Whoops.
No.
No?
The glossiness of the glaze is not what makes something look wet or not wet. It is the value changes and the accuracy with which you can represent those. Like if you look at Stephanie's beautiful polished gemstone doodles, her gem doodles, there's no glaze on that. That's just accurate pencil work right there is what that is.
Gotcha.
And it's a good example of what it is. Now, if I varnish this, right, that will deepen my colors and that reflection. And I can even demo that, even though I'm not supposed to varnish it. I will do it for you. So the next thing I want to do, so now I've kind of gotten the splatters resolved. See how that sort of pulls the rock from the splatters? We're kind of creating this connection to the rest of my canvas that I didn't want to have there. So painting them out allows me to say, no, you must stand out. All right. See if I can even, under this rock, improve this shadow and get it to pop out even more. Popping out this shadow. Isn't that nice?
That is.
And I've got one more layer of white. And then that should be a wet Riverstone. Paint a canvas of these, seriously win an art show. It's, telling you.
Now,
if you guys have to enter an art show and you're like, what do I do? Just do a whole canvas of wet Riverstones or wet leaves or wet bark, dewdrops.
now
Any of that.
what about partially submerged and water flowing over rocks? I guess
That's a whole different deal.
That's a whole different deal, isn't
yeah,
it?
and I don't mind covering that. If we want to cover some realism, we can. I mean, it's our quest. Look at how that's popping.
So I guess you kind of have to learn rocks before you learn water over rocks.
You got to learn rocks before you... I don't mean to be all Mr. Miyagi on you guys, but yeah.
Okay, so today we'll do rocks, and then we'll maybe make another quest, which is water and rocks, like water.
Look at that. This is the last reflection. Should really be helping. Look at that.
Yeah.
How wet is that rock?
That looks really good.
Does that look really good, guys?
Yeah. I think
you can come back here and make sure this reflection really pops where it needs to. See, right there?
Yeah.
These little things, they
make a big difference.
They make a big difference. And the more you look at a surface and the more you contemplate a surface, right? Like if I were to, like I'm looking at this and it feels like this whole top is a little glazed, but I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with that right now because I feel like I've got a wet rock right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, surface tension wise, and stop and think about this, how often have you seen a dewdrop on a rock?
Mm-hmm.
So if you paint a dewdrop on a rock, it's going to read as really weird to people because they won't have seen dewdrops on rocks in general because the surface tension of rocks breaks the water. John can probably explain why, but it does. But on a leaf, because of how the leaf is, it will hold a dewdrop. So certain things will hold a dewdrop, will hold a raindrop, will hold those things. Other things will not. And paying attention to those observationally will help you strengthen your skills as an artist. even when you're painting decoratively. Like, so say I'm a decorative artist, and this is
Uh-huh.
why I respect decorative artists. They still pay attention to the same thing as hyperrealists. They still have to pay attention to where does the light come from. Do dewdrops form on rocks? Because that would be weird. Even when they're painting really decorative stuff, and the really great ones have really on point art.
Yeah.
Even though maybe they did it in a one stroke manner, you're like, wow, those grapes are really put together lush.
Yeah.
You know, and I think as artists, we become stronger when we can recognize and validate our fellow creatives along the journey to say, hey, you do it differently than me in a different medium for a different audience, but I respect the work you put into getting here because I'm doing that work right now myself, and that work is hard.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of people who are asking about water and rocks, so we're probably going to have to do a special on that because they would like to see reflections of water and rocks and more underwater rocks and water flowing over rocks.
We could come back and do rocks underwater.
Rocks.
That's a lot about lighting. it's about some interesting stuff. So, like, I want to keep covering water in our lessons and in our quest because smoke, fog, water, glass, lightning, things that we don't see as solid, sometimes mentally are such a barrier, and really it's just like, oh, I just have to pay attention to more of this weird highlight here. And the more that you can pay attention, you know, like the pool paintings, my horses were part of that group of paintings that you see of the water paintings and how water works and all of that. So that's really about like just willing to be here for a while and going, and I see this little circle. And oh, there's this inside circle in aqua. Wait, that one's white. Just hanging in and painting it, you know, like feet in a pool. We could do feet in a pool.
So there's a whole lot of questions out here and about.
Oh, I'm willing to answer. Let's just do a quick Q&A. I feel like we covered some rock concepts. Another thing that you can do to these rocks to make these ones up here feel even more realistic is green on the shaded side.
So, oh yeah. So one of the first questions I saw was, I'm gonna zoom this in for you, is what is a decorative painter? And what, because there was a lot of people were asking. So the two big things are more quest on tide pools and what is a
totally do
decorative
tide
painter?
pool. You want to do tide pool? Tide pool it up.
So there you go. Okay.
What exactly is a decorative artist? Kim Sim, that's awesome. So decorative artists, and they're a strong, amazing group of creatives, practice technique-based stuff. So, like, you'll see brushes that are double loaded in one single expressive stroke. A whole lot of information is taken out. One of the most famous in that group of artists is Donna Dewberry, but, you know, Lori Corsigan or Mary Engelbright. These are artists that, you know, are in this space and they paint what's considered decoratively. In other words, you would bring this stuff into your home and put it somewhere proudly, right? Where sometimes fine art, like Francis Bacon, who's one of my very favorite artists, I would never live with one of his paintings. If you look him up on Google, you'd be like, I love him as a painter. I think he said important things. I couldn't live with any of the artwork, though I would be very proud to have it. I'd be scared of the painting all the time. Does that make sense? And we're painting for different kind of goals. Like sometimes, like hyperrealists are painting in such a way, their whole movement is not about painting realism. That's been covered. Their whole point is painting so realistically, and then yet at the same time, because of scale, because of some other element clearly not realistically, that you lose a sense of perspective of what is real or not. They're about completely disrupting your sense of space and scale and self, right? Whereas, like, you know, an incredibly strong decorative artist might be about creating an emotional moment for you that's very centering and home, and they do it technique-wise instead of just looking at what they're seeing, right? So are we decorative artists? Well, Rhonda, it's interesting. We do a little bit of everything here. We've had some decorative art because we've had some technique-based art. Remember, we talked about doing technique clouds where we kind of are doing the clouds, and we're not really looking at clouds. We're just painting what we understand clouds to be. That would be a decorative technique. But then sometimes we paint what we're looking at, and we get a little more realistic, or sometimes we get a little bit what's called lowbrow or outsider. right? Mushroom Man, a couple other pieces have gone that direction. Definitely our Sugar Skulls will. So we kind of cover a whole big broad spectrum of ideas and techniques and things here on the Art Sherpa channel, because I want you guys to get to sample a lot of different ideas, and then as you're sampling them, you're going to find yourself in there somewhere. That's my mad plan.
Yeah.
Oh, almost double Sherpa. Thumbs up, everyone. Ellen says, Kevin. Kevin would be lowbrow. So sometimes in art, you'll hear terms like lowbrow, outsider, counterculture, or brutalist, or all kinds of words that can sound insulting, but are not. They are in their intent to just talk about the process by which a school of work is created.
Yeah.
We're not really in any school, and I like to say a lot of the stuff we do here is kitsch because it's sentimental, it's emotional, and it's designed to live with us. It's not designed to disrupt us emotionally and cause us to contemplate the nature of the universe. Where are you taking my chat?
I think.
You can't stand the outsider term. That is because it has been used inappropriately. It should be a badge of honor.
Yeah.
It should be, but again, it's like Illustrator. I've heard so many fine artists go, well, it's pretty good, but it's very illustrative. What does that even mean? It's pretty good, but it's illustrative.
Generally, when somebody says that to me, that means that,
They're
dude, it's
weak.
good enough that well, it says about the artwork. If that says
It
that
does.
work is
They're
illustrative,
weak in their illustrative skills. If you can't respect someone else's ability to
Yeah.
illustrate, then you don't have good illustrative skills,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
yeah. But if you see something that is very well illustrated,
Christy likes to use words inappropriately. Good for you, Christy. I think we should.
Hey,
300
2
thumbs up.
Oh, I'll get some dance music on for us here in a second.
I rock, pun intended. Thank you for the rock puns. I really needed those.
You needed the rock puns.
I did. I've been punning all week, and John's been having to put up with it. And I think it's been the cold coming on.
Has it?
Lexi Queen says she gets what I mean. Yeah, it's just needlessly shaming each other when we should be like, I respect your skills. You are incredible. It's like somebody will like, I won't buy poured paint paintings because they're just slopping paint down on a canvas. We will pour some paint sometime together, and you're going to be like, that is some mad skills to pour paint and have control of the result. Is not just throwing paint at a canvas.
No.
It's hard.
No.
I always tell them kind of people, if I want their opinions, I will give it to them. Mo Cuts. You could you stand right by me. I get a lot of people's opinions here. I accomplished what I was trying to do then if you think it's illustrative. Yes. Yeah, sometimes you're like, dude, I was trying to give you a very clear and complete direction of what I'm saying.
Well,
You know, and know that there were people who gave Hopper, like, some grief about being illustrative because he was objective in his work. But yet it's more.
yeah.
Norman Rockwell was more. Did he not capture an entire American experience?
Yeah.
Not all of the American experience, but he captured an American experience. You know, somebody's always got to give shade. Back in the day, people gave Bob Ross a lot of shade. Now they're like, oh, he did 30,000 paintings and was a democratic artist, and that's very important. It's just like, you know, he was the same artist the whole time, back when he was getting shade, and now?
No.
Same artist, same paintings, nothing's changed. My soapbox.
Yep.
And you know what? John knows when I get a little fever, I get a little soapboxy.
That's all right. But we
I'll be in the bed going, and you know what else? I think, and even when like, it's tough for me. Like sometimes, like even when you have a personal problem with like somebody, don't let that be shade on their art,
Yeah.
right? Separate those things out, because
Yeah.
you can be like, and like, okay. Oh, can Luna say hi to you guys?
Sure, you can say hi.
She's dancing by her dad.
Hi, I want to spin a wheel.
Oh, she wants to spin the wheel. The wheel
She
of
just
wonder's
gave-
back there.
She likes to spin the wheel of wonder. My kids think the wheel of wonder. She's been playing the game. She's like, "What does it say?" And then she blindfolds herself in colors. I'm like, I love this kid.
We'll have to play some more of that soon.
We're gonna do some wheel of wonder soon. We're gonna get a bunch of stuff up. We're gonna have some fun. I was surprised. I just have to say this before we go. I know
Yep,
we
yep.
need to go, but I have to say this before we go.
Oh, yeah.
In my sleepy fog. Wow, has the unicorn been polarizing? I really didn't expect space unicorn to be as divisive. It's all good. I've actually really enjoyed it. Like, I've enjoyed both sides of it. Like, why is that horse in space?
Now,
It's been awesome. And like other people are like, horse in space. Hearts in space.
If we didn't get to your question today, put it in the comments. And
Oh,
we're gonna
is there
come-
anything we need to catch real quick? Are we good?
I think there's a lot of questions that have just kind of come through here.
I think what I'm
about
taking away is I need to follow this up with some water running over rocks.
Yeah. Some more tide pools, some reflections.
Tide pools would be
fog.
fun.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff, and more like water, like how water works. Like you guys probably need to do some water drops, and you guys probably need to do some pouring water, and you guys probably need to do water in a glass. That's always entertaining.
But we're going to get you rested.
We're gonna get me rested
We're going to get you rested today. And we'll do
Today.
some more. We'll do some more soon.
so that there's a class Saturday, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Depends on the energy levels. You guys might be doing an abstract, and so today we're doing an abstract.
Love you
Love
guys.
you guys very much. Sorry for me being a little under the
Oh,
weather.
you're wonderful.
Bye bye. I love you, baby.
I love you.
All right, love you guys too.
Bye-bye.
Rock it up. Bye bye.